Welcome to the Rewilded Human Podcast, where Dr. Lucille, holistic psychiatrist and psychotherapist, and Dr. Lynn, naturopath and nutritional consultant, help you reconnect with your true self through practical tips on mental health, nutrition, exercise, relationships, and spirituality. With a dash of humor, they tackle today's toughest issues to guide you back to a harmonious, vibrant life. Rediscover your natural self, just as nature intended.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rewilded Human Podcast. Today, you have a real treat because Lynn and I are going to lay ourselves bare and reveal to you exactly where we've gone wrong in our lives. So sit back and enjoy and have a few laughs on us.
Hello, everyone. Actually, I was just asking Dr. Lucille, I said, what's our topic today? And when she told me, I said, oh, no wonder I was blocking this out.
So let's start with you, Lynn. Okay.
Like, do we really want to discuss and put all our,
yes,
dirty lives
bare our
here?
souls. Just so nobody out there feels bad or has the illusion that we have our act together, right?
Yeah.
We don't want anybody to feel like they're being deceived into thinking that we are perfect.
Perfect. Yeah. Far from it, right? So I was thinking when you brought up this topic, I'm like, okay, this is a great topic. And luckily, looking back at my life, there are not a lot of things that I feel like were huge mistakes, because I feel like I did a lot of good stuff, or even the bad stuff that brought me ultimately to where I am are in the end good stuff. So I don't really look back at them as mistakes. There are basically two major things. And I'll go with one, and then you tell us yours, and then I'll finish with the other one. So the first is, and this is something that I've talked about before, and I've done videos about this, is my breast implants that I got when I was 2021. I developed all kinds of different health issues. It was like the craziest, stupidest thing that I ever did. I mean, they were literally killing me, these toxic bags. And, I've talked about this before. If you guys want to know the whole story, you can go on my channel, The Aging Games, watch my full story. I'm not going to get into it too much. But basically, your body starts attacking itself because it has this foreign invader that it's trying to push out all the time. So I started developing all kinds of aches and pains, and it was uncomfortable and it looked horrendous. And after I was breastfeeding, they ruptured, the silicone leaked all over my body. I was on the table for 12 hours while they're trying to remove all the silicone. And then they put in the safe saline implants. And, I was realizing that this is not good. This is not good. And it took like another 10 years before there was another option, which was, stem cells and everything else. So when I did have the toxic bags taken out, they were in my body for like 20 years at that point. The breast implants, the saline ones, were covered in mold. Completely black mold. They were black. So can you imagine that inside your body?
It's a horror movie. That's a horror movie.
It is. And knowing what I know about health now and all the things that I've learned along the way, of course, you're young. You don't think about those things. You don't think that you'll be breastfeeding one day. You'll have a child. Like people think breast implants are forever. They don't realize like every 5-10 years you need to replace them. And what's going on in your body. People don't think about those things. And when I was 21, I didn't think, all I cared was that, why do I have such small boobs? And, I can't even watch these movies. I remember 80s, 90s, Baywatch, right? And then here I am with my small boobies, and everyone's like, and I thought like, I just had this complex, like you couldn't believe. Never mind the pressure they have on the young women now. I mean, this was before Instagram, before all of that stuff. So what I learned from this, I guess I would say, is that the things that, and this is for the young girls, in case you guys are watching this, the things that you think are driving you crazy right now, those things are not going to matter at all when you get older. Those things are so not important. All the things that we stress about, right, Lucille? Think back, when we're teenagers, early 20s, about the stupidest things that bothered us about ourselves. And you look back and you're like, how insignificant is that? How crazy is that? Like, is it the size of your breast that makes you a woman or determines what kind of a person you are? Of course not.
Now, if some very wise older woman like yourself had come along to you when you were 21 and said this to you, would you have listened?
No. Definitely. No.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right?
I've tried to help, speaking to young ladies, in person that I knew very well personally, and they wouldn't listen to me, and they went and got
Of
them
course.
anyway, even after hearing my horror story. So
Yeah,
it's
I
really
know.
sad, isn't it? That we don't.
It is very sad. But you know what it says is that there has to be a certain level of maturity before people can think through the consequences of their actions rather than just act impulsively. Because when you're 21, your frontal lobes have not fully formed all the connections that are necessary for you to think rationally and to think through consequences. It is very, very hard to get through to somebody that age. And it's not your fault. It's not their fault. It's just that your brain has not developed sufficiently for you to be able to make those decisions in a rational way. And I'll bet you tell me if I'm wrong, I'll bet you the first doctor that you encountered who agreed to do the procedure, did they even warn you of any of this?
No, he was just coming out of rehab, and I think he was probably like doing lines on my stomach while he was doing my breast implant. Like I woke up on the table, and I said, I want to go home. I want to get out of here. I woke up and they were pinning. It was just him and his secretary that were doing the surgery in his office. So
Oh,
they were
oh,
pinning me down, holding me down, yelling at me to stop. So I was awake, like basically through the whole procedure. But
oh my
it
God.
was just about money for him. He did not try to talk me out of it at all.
Oh,
And I cashed in I had an RRSP, a retirement savings plan in Canada, and I cashed in my retirement plan at 21 to get the breast implants. I mean, it's just insane.
yeah. Well, these are the insane things we do when we're kids and we don't have the brain capacity and we don't have proper guidance, so
Absolutely. Your
uh,
turn, Lucille. You're in the hot seat.
okay. So I'm going to start right from the beginning, and this is in the category of stuff we are not told, stuff that we have no idea how to even deal with. We develop these stupid stories in our heads, and then it doesn't match reality, but we carry on the stupid stories for the rest of our lives, right? So the first big mistake was knowing that my parents were not really behaving like parents, like I felt parents should, and yet expecting that one day they would be the parents that I was wanting. And especially my mother. And this led to my mother and I having a very conflictual relationship for like right up until maybe just about a year before she died, where I was so frustrated with her, angry with her. I would fly off the handle at things she would do that felt to me like, you're not acting like a proper mother. Act like a proper mother. Why aren't you acting like a proper mother? She acted more like a child who had a concept of what a mother should do, but it really wasn't aligned with what a child would need, right? Like, so I'm 15 years old and she's telling me that I should dress like I dressed when I was 5, things
No
like that,
way.
weird stuff, and she would she would make very superficial judgments of me, of my friends, and then expect that I would just follow her guidance when I knew it was bullshit, right? It was just awful. So we ended up arguing lots, or there would be long silences where wouldn't talk. And then it was close to the like, and to my astonishment too, because I went through medical school, I went through my psychiatric training, I learned all about developmental psychology. And what I didn't put together until much later was that people can look like they're adults, but on the inside, they are still the child that they were when some major trauma happened to them that they never got over. And my mother's life was filled with trauma as a child, like filled with it, and she never dealt with it. And bless her, I no longer have any. I no longer blame her. I understand. I have compassion. And I basically said to her, at the end, how sorry I was that I treated her the way I did because I just didn't understand. Your physical development does not in any way match your mental development or your emotional development. when I finally figured it out, like that my mother could never be the mother I wanted because she was just a traumatized child, that's where everything changed. And finally, and I'm so glad it happened before she died, where I finally let go of any expectations of her. I didn't treat her like a child. I didn't treat her with disrespect, but I just was very realistic about what she was capable of. And I was no longer in judgment, no longer angry at her when she'd do childlike things.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's something that a lot of mothers and daughters go through because a lot of their relationships, mother-daughter relationships can be very complicated.
Yeah.
And so I think this is one of the things that we don't know as we grow up, and it ends up really making the relationship torture for, for the mother and for the daughter, right? And the mothers on their side too have their, stories about how, what parenting should be and how their children should be. You have to be very aware of reality and what's really going on. So anyway, that's my big, like from
So,
the beginning, mistake.
so your mistake basically was in how you treated her or how you perceived her or how
How
your
I
expectation.
perceived her. Yeah, how I perceived her, how I treated her, how I would get hooked on fixing her so
Yeah.
that she was the mother that I wanted.
Yes.
And she was on her end busy fixing me so I could be the daughter that she'd always wanted, right?
Oh, how sad.
So it's very sad. It's very sad. Yeah, it
Do you
is.
think if
But
she was still alive, you guys would have a better relationship now because of this?
well, possibly, that's possibly true. I still have a feeling that I would have had to do most of the accommodating in the
Mhm.
relationship. I'd be the one who'd be understanding. I'd be the one who would soothe her or reassure her. I'd have to be very gentle in how I refused her attempts to fix me, that sort of thing. But who knows? Who knows?
Do you think, Lucille, that relationships between mothers and daughters is more complex than between mothers and sons?
I think so. However, mothers and sons have, it's a whole different dynamic. It's a
Mhm.
whole different dynamic. And you having a son, you probably know this even better than I do because you've had the experience of it. But you don't get so emotionally enmeshed with the son. When you're a mother, you don't expect to. But
Mhm.
when you have a daughter, you expect that you're going to be emotionally very close. Both of you are, as women, tend to be more empathic, tend to, be concerned, if they see change in mood or that the other person is not happy. Both can want to rush in and fix it, and it gets kind of entangled and messy.
Mhm.
Whereas with the son, it's like, oh yeah, he's my golden haired boy, and he's not going to get that emotionally entangled with you, which is great.
Yeah,
It keeps it clean, right? It keeps it like a boundaried already, right?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Very true. So, okay, that brings me to my next confession.
Yes.
And which has to do actually with my son. I had a home birth. I kept him away from doctors as much as possible. I really thought I was doing the best, the absolute best for him. But this was also a phase where we all decided we're going to be vegetarians and raise him as a vegetarian. And that is like absolutely one of the biggest regrets of my life. Because, for 4 years, we totally deprived him of the nutrition that he needed and his brain needed. We went with all the crappy soy substitutes that they made. I mean, basically everything was soy. He was drinking little boxes of soy milk because, cow milk is toxic. And, so we were doing like we thought it was the absolute best because soy is the answer to everything. I mean, this is, 97, right? I was teaching everyone. I mean, you have to stop drinking cow's milk. You have to drink soy milk. You have to stop eating meat. You have to eat the soy burgers, soy, everything. And I know, I mean, for me, it definitely destroyed my health, destroyed my thyroid. It was horrible for my health. And hopefully it's not going to have a long-term impact on my son. He's 28 almost. He's very healthy. So, but, you can't help but wonder, like,
Mm.
how different things would have been if in those 4 years I would have actually given him the nutrition that his body requires. So that's always a guilt thing. You know, like for example, he's got small hands, and he's like, "Mom, he's a tall boy. He's 6 feet tall. And he's got small hands." It's like, is that the toy? You know, like.
Oh, so even he kind of regrets
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
thing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that big time. You know, he gives me crap about it. It's like, Mom, it's all the soy you fed me and all this stuff.
Oh, that really helps. Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
yeah, for sure. But he's right, and you know, you know, when you know better, you do better. But at that point, I really thought I was doing the best for him. So that's when it comes to nutrition and health, and we're always evolving and changing and learning new things and improving. But those 4 years, I wish I could do them over again. I really do.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it does speak to how we have to be humble, right? We know things and it feels like, oh, this is the answer. We learn new things about diet or exercise or quantum biology or whatever. And this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I have to adhere to like it's a religion. And you start proselytizing to everybody. You start, sermonizing, telling everybody they have to do the same thing. And then, oops, it starts coming to light that there's something dreadfully wrong with that way of life, right? And I think it's a real lesson in being humble, don't you think? Like saying to yourself, okay, this looks like it's an answer. We'll try it out, but it may not be, or there may be other things that I need to add to it, right? We have this thing about, just becoming rigid and focused that this is the latest, greatest, and there's nothing that comes after it, right? I've been there myself many times, right?
Me too. Definitely
So,
guilty of that. Whatever the new bandwagon I'm on, everyone must jump on board because that's the only way. But yeah, definitely that should teach us to be humble and not to force our views on everyone else. You know, at that point,
mhm,
I was studying nutrition. I was becoming a
right,
naturopath, and everything was about being a vegetarian. That's when all those movies were coming out about how animals are being treated, which is absolutely
right.
horrible. You know, I'm totally
Yeah,
against and factory farming and all of those things. So don't get me wrong, and I'm an animal lover. So you know,
yeah,
vegans don't come at me. But I know that for my family it would have been much better if I would have known the things that I know now, if I would have known them then. And especially, you know, now with learning quantum, actually finishing my certificate in quantum biology, that you
mhm,
know, like now it really bothers me how much he's up all night and he's playing video games and or trading, and he's not getting enough sleep, he's not getting outside. But
right,
I can't control him. He's an adult. He has to make his own
right.
decisions now.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you know, at least I know that when he was a kid, we were outside all the time and we were playing. We were in the sand, we were on the beach. I never put sunscreen on him. So you know, we lived in
oh,
Florida.
wonderful. Good
Yeah,
for you.
I had all that covered. I knew all this stuff for a long, long time. So thank God
Mhm,
at least that part was good. And you know, and to treat him with natural medicine rather than drugs. He's never taken antibiotics. He's never drank Coke in his life, never even tried it, not even a sip. He didn't go to McDonald's
wow,
till he was like
wonderful.
16. So I mean, you know, I did my best in every other regard.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
still, that's still a bit of a regret for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have
Oh,
another one for us, Lucille?
oh, how many? I mean, we could be here all
We
day
only have
long,
time for
Lynn.
one. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Um, Here, the other thing that was very much something that I'm still working my way out of is this need to fit in. I mean, I'm much, much, much better at being my own person now. But, from the time I was young, I was always on the inside, I was a rebel. And I would do, behind my parents' back, I'd do exactly what I wanted and not what they were telling me to do. But I'd keep it quiet, I kept it a secret. And then on the outside, to the outside world, I was Little Miss Perfect, right? And I had to fit in everywhere. And so I would be, they used to call you a brown noser, or they used to call kids brown nosers when you were
Yeah,
good
yeah,
at
yeah,
school.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
When
I
you're,
was I was a brown noser.
yeah,
I did everything just the way the teacher wanted and all of that. And I was not myself, right? And it was a really lonely life. And I remember I had maybe I would always have maybe one or two best friends with whom I could share a little bit more of my real self. But for the most part, I was very shy. I was very withdrawn. I'm not sure that's my real nature so much. Like we were talking about being ambivert, mixture of introvert, extrovert. And I think I'm more that way. But because I kind of felt had to hide the real me because somehow that was shameful. It wasn't good enough. Um, and I was so afraid of being judged and punished. And again, it's not really a mistake in the sense that I didn't know any better. I was just doing what I thought I needed to do to survive. But it's more of a kind of lesson to me in, especially if I'm working with clients who are still struggling with it, that I can kind of use my own direct experience and my wisdom and say to them, listen, it's going to be impossible for you to have a fulfilled and happy life. It's going to be virtually impossible for you to come out of your depression and anxiety if you don't start really accepting and, if possible, loving who you really are. Now, that doesn't mean you have to bring it out to the entire world and show everybody who you really are. You don't. You have to be, a little bit self-protective, but to at least to yourself, to say to yourself, listen, the fact that I'm a geek, I'm not like all the other kids. I'm a geek, and I love to study weird subjects that the other kids don't even know exist. That sort of thing. That should have been celebrated. And even to myself, I couldn't really appreciate it because I wasn't like the other popular kids. I just wasn't, right? So it's more if I had a child or if I'm trying to help a client or patient through this, I would just say, listen, I would support them in just accepting who they really are, because the bulk of misery in this world is about being ashamed of who you really are, because you are given the message, or you imagine that people will not like you, or you'll be rejected and exiled if you don't go along. Now it's more about asking myself, am I doing this because it's authentically aligned with who I am? Do I feel a big yes in my body when I think about doing this? And if it's not a yes, why not? And then be okay. Be okay if I'm not following the crowd, I'm not doing the same thing. I don't have FOMO anymore, fear of missing out. Hardly ever now, which is great. Boy, that's a real liberation. So yeah, so I would say that was my biggest mistake that went on for quite a long time until I started to really break free of it probably in my 30s.
And how did you break free from that?
Well, you know what? It was the torture of medical school. It was like, where, oh, it was just horrible. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who was a year ahead of me in the residency program. And it was a time for me where I was, really struggling. Should I stay in the hospital system? Should I get an appointment here, as a staff person, or what? But believe you me, staying in the hospital system did not appeal to me. But when you're in that culture, it's like they kind of imprint you with the idea that you can't survive without working in a hospital or a clinic setting. You have to be in some kind of institutional setting. But this friend of mine was very much more into being herself, and she knew that staying in the hospital system was not for her. So she went out into private practice, and I'm in my final year, and I'm seeing her in her private practice, thriving, enjoying her life, not having to sit on 15 million stupid committees and do pointless research to get grants to make the institution look better. She was living her life, and I was so hungry to start living my life that I thought, thank you, this is a great example for me. I love you, you're a role model. And that's when I decided I'm going to do what I really want and not what's expected of me anymore. And that's when I broke free of this need to fit in.
And did you go directly into private practice?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Thankfully, I did not stick around, and because that really would have killed me. That would have killed me.
That's so good that you found this solution, and you found it early, not 10
Yes, exactly.
down the
Yeah.
road, when by then your spirit would have been broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
exactly. Yeah.
Lucille, now we all have mistakes that we look back on in our lives. How do we forgive ourselves? How do we move on from that?
I think it is really important to have a sense that you are connected to something bigger than yourself. Because if you are in a context of, well, it's just me in the world, there's nothing else, there's no other meaning to life, and somebody tells you, you have to accept yourself, you have to appreciate yourself, you have to love yourself, and you're looking around going, what's this? Where's the support for this? Where do I fit in if I'm different from other people? And I've been told all my life that I'm not good enough as I am. So like that is a really tall order for most people. The one thing that helped me a lot was when I really started getting into my spiritual development, and I really began to feel more of that connection to something bigger, and the awareness that I was here for something far more than just, you know, training for a career, having the successful career, finding the husband, having the kids, getting the mortgage, getting the house, that there was so much more. It was kind of like I broke through that sense of I am an infinite being and I have a bigger purpose here. And I am a manifestation of the divine here in this world. And then it becomes a lot easier to appreciate yourself. It really does. For me, it did anyway, right? But if you're paddling around in this world as if there's nothing else but this, I think it's very hard to feel really good about yourself and feel like you're strong enough to be yourself in this world. You may have tremendous confusion about who am I? I go along with that for many, many, many. Some people go to their deaths not knowing what they're really here for, right?
Or they're just living in survival mode. I see so many people like
Survival mode, yeah.
going
And
through
they
the
make it,
motions.
they make it easy for us to be in survival mode, don't they? The powers that be. It's yeah, it's horrendous how we've been disempowered in this world.
Well, that was an interesting episode. You guys got to learn a little bit more about us. Lucille, did you ever imagine yourself that one day you'd be a podcaster?
Never.
Never. Me neither.
Never.
And here we are. There you
And
go.
here we are. And how did we meet? I mean, my gosh, that was amazing, right? We met over
On
Instagram, right?
Instagram, yes. And Lucille said to me, "Can we talk on the phone?" I'm like, "Well, that's very strange. I don't even talk to my mother on the phone. Like, why does she want to talk to me?" and, and I've never talked to any other like Instagram friend or anyone on the phone, but I said okay. And then we chatted on the phone. And then afterwards I just had this vision. It just came to me so strong. I'm like, we have to do a podcast together. And you didn't bring up any kind of podcast or anything like that. And it just came through so strong. And then remember, I reached out to you and I said, Lucille, we have to do a podcast. And you were like, okay. I'm like, wow.
I was not okay. Remember, I said,
No,
no, too much work. It's too much. I
why did you
never,
say
because
that?
the first thing you asked me was, have you ever considered doing a podcast? And I said to you, no, it's way too much work. And then then you said, no, don't worry. I'll do all the work. You just show up. Then I thought, okay.
Okay, welcome. And here we are, like going on our 100th episode soon. We always lost at how many episodes we've done, but a lot, over 80, that's for sure. And yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and thankfully, and I'm forever grateful to you for this, Lynn. But you've taken on the bulk of the headaches, done the bulk of the work. You've been amazing at putting this all together. So I am forever grateful to you for
But
all that you've
I
done.
couldn't have done it without you, Lucille, and I would not have done it without you. Like it would have never occurred to me start a podcast by myself. I mean, why would anyone want to listen to me talk? How boring is that? So I mean, to have the two of us and the two brains together, and the amazing guests that we have on this show, we're so lucky.
We
Absolutely.
are
Yes.
right.
And in the next episode, guys, we're going to have the amazing and beautiful Kelly Bento. And we're going to be talking about what's wrong with modern day dentistry. All the horror stories she's going to tell us. It's going to be really amazing. We'll also talk about red light therapy. So you guys don't want to miss that. Please do like and subscribe. It really helps us so much, guys. It's so important. If you're listening on a podcast platform, give us those 5 stars. It really makes a big difference. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hi, then make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell that says you get notifications every time we post a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you. Thank you for tolerating all our flaws.
Yeah, we appreciate
Bye, everybody.
it, guys. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the Rewilded Human podcast. We hope you're leaving with insights to reconnect with your natural, vibrant self. Remember, the information shared here is for educational and inspirational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for any personal health concerns. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit. We'll see you next time, ready to dive even deeper. Stay wild, stay true, and stay tuned.